Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today on the Masechtas Bava Kama Daf Mem Aleph, we are going to begin on the very bottom of Mem Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom by the 2 dots. Omer Mar, Nogeach, if you have an animal that gores, Mishalem as a koifer. So the din is that you will have to pay koifer when it kills. Roiveya enu Mishalem as a koifer. However, if an animal is roiveya, or a nirva, you do not pay kofer because there was no person that was killed. Now, hey chidami, what exactly are we talking about? Ilim the rav of a katla. So let's say it cohabited with a human being and killed that person. So mali katla bekarna, mali katla bravia. What's the difference if it killed the person with a horn or killed it by cohabiting with a person, and that's how the person got killed? Obviously, you should be chayiv kofer. The El the Rav of low Kotl. We're talking about a situation where it was with a person but did not kill them. So Hai Deloy Misham Kaiver, Misham Deloy Katalhu. Of course you don't pay Kofer. There's no person that died. If no one died, then of course you're not going to pay Kofer. So what's the Chiddush? So Rabbi Oilam the Rav of low Kotl. The truth is, again, they didn't kill anyone. So what's the Chiddush? Dasuyil Beidina. They brought this situation to Beis Din. Vikatluha, and the Beis Din killed her. Mahu detema. So because maybe it was baratzin, so mahu detema. Maybe you would think as we continue command the katla dami kamashmulan, because this animal was involved in this sin. So therefore, Beis Din sentenced this person to death. So therefore, maybe it's kill like the animal killed this person. Kamashmulan, no. Rabbi Oilam. The Rav of a Katla. We're talking about a situation, and this is, by the way, this is question TA29, as we'll get through. The 2 reasons, Omer Mar, Roivenu, Mishalem, Asakaifer, Madua. So, one answer we just said, so Oyam the Rav of Katla, so Beidin of a Katlua. So, in this situation, the Chiddush is, even, you think, well, obviously, the person, the animal didn't kill, but the reality is the Beis Din did. This is how he writes this. The Mayri but Rav of Loy Katl, the Kamash Afgav, the Yasul Beis Din, the Katluha Potter. Okay, that's answer number 1. Let's see the second answer. Rav Oilam the Rav of Katl. Really, it did kill. So the question is, if it killed, you should have to pay kaifer. The Kakashal Mali Katl Bekarnaim Mali Katl Beravia. What's the difference if you killed with its horns, or with one horn, multiple horns, katl bekarna, right, or karnaim, mali katl beravia? It's the same thing. So karen kavanas lahazik, high kavanas lahanas atzmahu. So the reality is, even though the animal killed, but it did not do so with intention to kill. With the horn, it's intention to kill. So b'mai pligi. So what exactly? Is there an argument? Beregil shadar sal gabitinik b'chatzer hanizik. So according to, we're going to see, if you have the animal that damages by trampling on a child with its feet in the chatzar of the nizik, then that we have a machlokas. So how do we understand? This is Rashi Labaya, which had the first answer, Aval P. The animal did not have intention to kill this little child. The ha'uki, the Rav of Leikatul, is just walking. A horn is kavanas lahazik. So hakatul misham kaifer. So in this situation, according to the first shot, he would say you still chayv kaifer, even though it was not kavanas lahazik. However, according to the opinion of Rava, it's all totally on kavana, and therefore it didn't have kavana. Therefore, you wouldn't pay kaifer either by beregel shadar sal gabi tinek b'chatzer nizik. So by misham kaifer Rava. Loy Mishalem Kaifer. Tanagamas to the Rav. Sure, it's Tadin, as we said, a bullfighting ox. Enu Chai Misa. If it kills, it's not Chai Misa. The Karshakam is Bech. Memne Shehu Kam Usa. So Taka, unbelievable because it was like forced into the situation. So the din is that's actually going to be allowed to be brought on Mizbech. Again, let's look at TA29, second answer. V'katla killed. V'kivan dahanas atzmahu havilei shein v'regel v'svilei the lake of Kaifer rak b'karen. You only have to pay kaifer when it comes to Karen. Which again is machlokas if that's true. Okay. Fine. Did we see question 3 already? Yes, we did. Okay. Weiter. So that's... Okay. So let's see the next Mishnah. Says the Masnisa. Shoshan Adam umes. So you have an ox that gores a person and dies. Mu'id misham kaifer. So if the animal's a mu'id, you pay kaifer for killing a person. The tam patim in a kaifer. There's no din chatzi kaifer. There's a din chatzi nesek, but there's no din chatzi kaifer. However, whether it's a tam or mu'id, we're going to destroy the animal for killing. V'chein bebain v'chein bavas. Says Rashi, there's no difference. And Rashi says, Bain katan b'tinaikas katana, even if the ben is a katan of a tinaikas katana, chayv skill v'kaifer k'gedoyim. There's no difference of the age. Nagach eved or amma, let's say the ox gore an eved or an amma of Riyah and killed them, so nice and shloishim shloim. So then the din is, there's no din kaifer, but you have to pay a kanas of 30 sela. Ben shehu yafa meyamana, ben shehu yafa ela dinner echad. Again, it's always the same amount. Whenever it's the same amount across the board, and it's not that we're assessing the person, obviously it's a din kanas. Says the Gemara, v'chim acher demitam katalinin le. If we're going to be sentencing the tam to death or killing this animal, mu'id heichem shkachasla. How can we ever find a case of a mu'id? Doesn't make any sense. If it's a mu'id, that means it killed a few times. So but it killed even the first time, it would be sentenced to death. So that it attempted murder to 3 people, and that's what it says Rashi. Shiratz achareihem zechas, was running after them, ubarchu mipanav, and they fled from this animal. The amdu sheimu barchu haya hargan. They assessed that if these 3 people did not were not fast and outrun this bull or this ox, then they would have been killed. So therefore, it's considered to be a mu'id, even though it didn't actually kill. Ravashi Omer alav klumhu. No, the fact that it's running after animals is not enough of a proof. El skin. We're talking that Ataka caused damages. Says Rashi Lefikach im niskul b'shnayim harishainim. Let's say we would im niskul b'shnayim harishainim ukshenagach shlishi mesu kulam hilkach mishamul of kaifer. So basically, what happened was the people initially were injured, but they didn't die. But then eventually maybe the 3rd person died, and then everyone else died too, so then you pay kaifer as a mu'id. Rav Zvid Omer kagon shaharg shloisha behemus. And for example, it killed 3 animals. So if it's a mu'id behema, we say it's a mu'id l'adam. Mu'id behema havi mu'id l'adam. Is that true? El Omer Rav Shimi kagon shaharg shloisha oivei chachavim. It means that they killed 3 oivei chachavim. And in that there's no din skill on the shore, but nonetheless, that in itself is the same thing, because a person is a person, whether it's an Avik HaChavim or Yisrael. So therefore, the fact is, we see that it's Huid Adam. Fine. Umuid Avik HaChavim Havi Muid Yisrael. Is that true? That if it's a Muid to attack Avik HaChavim, how do we know it's going to be a Muid for a Yid? El Omer Hashem and Alakish Kegain Shaharg Shlosh B'nei Adam Adam Treifa. They killed 3 people who already had eternal wounds before this, and they were going to die anyway. So Amud L'Treifa Havi Amud L'Shalim. So how does that mean anything? Just because the mood for a Treifa shouldn't become a mood when it comes to someone who is healthy. The Katal of Oracle Agma. The Katal of Oracle Agma. What happens is it killed and ran into the swamp. It killed and ran into the swamp. So therefore, because of that, it wasn't around to be sentenced to death. It was just a wild ox, literally a wild ox, killing people, and no one could catch it. Says a little bit more difficult, so let's slow down. Let's look at Rashi. When it gored the first 2 times, there was 2 pairs of witnesses. Bokat Achas, the first group came, Vizimum, and they were plotting witnesses, Upatruhu, and therefore the animal was free. When it gored a third time, the idubo basakat hamzamemes lahazima v'huzma oisakat. So they actually plotted, they said that those witnesses were actually plotting witnesses. They were wrong. And therefore, aval hazamois harishainis, even the first ones, that they were, that really the first testimonies were good. So therefore, because it was understood, what happened was that the second group of Adim were later proved to be Zaymim, not the first group, who were saying the truth about this ox. So now, if you are in the opinion that the whole purpose of these warnings is in order because of the ox, then that makes sense. And therefore you need like 3 different days. Like the pasuk says, El Yudi Gavra, if it's in order to warn the person, he could have always said he didn't know. In other words, you can't just pile it on. If it's 3 different times, okay, fine. If it's all totally on the ox doing something 3 times, it becomes a mu'id. But if it's totally on the person, the whole purpose is so once you warn him the first time, he'll be able to watch the animal so it will not end up continuing to damage. But if in fact, according to this, they're all piled on at the exact same moment, so the Baal can say, what do you mean? I never had an opportunity to watch my animal. So therefore it should not be a mu'id. That person says, wherever the animal kills, gabe havikoi, the owner was there. In other words, the fact is, he actually saw, he saw that his animal gore, and therefore that would also fall into the category of he should have known because he saw it continuously goring, and therefore it becomes a mu'id. Question 4. Ma nafkamina menidain gimel yomim dechsev b'krali udi gavrahim or udi turahim. What's the difference? So as we just said, so let's say everyone testifies at the same time. Everyone comes on the same day, or the groups that were plotting witnesses, they turned out not to be plotting witnesses. It becomes a mu'id. Because again, the person could say, what do you mean? I didn't have a chance to be able to warn. I wasn't really warned in this situation. Okay. Ravina Oimer, a different shot. B'makirin es bal hashor, we recognize the owner of the ox. In makirin es hashor, but we have no idea where the ox is. So you couldn't have killed the ox because we don't know anything about it. We know that the owner, that there was an animal that killed. It belonged to this owner, this guy who owned thousands of oxen, but we don't know which ox it was. So my havilim evid, what could he do? Misham di amri leitur nakhana islach bevikarcha. That you have an ox, obviously, in your flock that's dangerous. You should therefore be watching all of your cattle to make sure that none of them do damage, because there's certainly one which is dangerous. And therefore, again, this is another reason how it's possible that even though it did kill, but nonetheless, because we don't know which animal it was, it could be an agam over here. Again, it's possible that it's not an agam, but we just don't know which one it is. But it becomes a mu'id because the owner should be watching all of his animals. However, as the Mishnah said, even if it's a tam, even though you don't pay any kofar, but the animal still killed. Taraban. This is a very famous Gemara in Pesachim and Kedushin, mostly in Pesachim. At the beginning of the second paragraph of the Pesachim, it says that you kill the ox, and the Yodea shenavelahi, it's going to be a carcass, so nevela sur b'achil, you can't eat it. So matam l'mo yachil es b'sar, what does it mean you can't eat the meat? Obviously you can't. So matam l'chasav shim shakal achar shnag merdinoi us about b'achil. That if, let's say it was a Gemara din, that we're going to do skill on this animal, but we preempted it by doing halachic shchita. You're such a big tzaddik, you did a great shchita on this shor haniskol, so that meat still cannot be eaten, even though it looks like it's totally fine. I can understand that in this situation you can't eat it, but how you can't derive benefit from a shor haniskol. Again, this is in Kedushin, because can you mekadosh a woman with it? Talmud lemer ubal hashor noki. So what do I mean noki? My mashma. So Shimon ben Zayma Aimer ka'adam she'ayim lechaveru yatzi ish pleni noki min chasav. That I'm, like a person says in gambling, I'm clean. I have nothing, and there's nothing of my possessions. The ein boy bahem hana shel kolom. I basically have no benefit. I have nothing I can do because I have absolutely nothing. Okay, fine. Weiter. So that's what it means. Therefore, it's asur bahana. How do we know when it says we're not eating meat? There's a that you're not to eat the meat even though you did the proper shechita. Maybe taki, you are allowed to eat the meat if you shecht it. When it says not to eat the meat, what does it mean when it says maybe it's coming to tell you, of course, it's also to eat because it's nevela if you actually did skila, but maybe the pasuk that is telling to tell you that it's asr b'hana. Lo yachel. It's not just saying can't eat, but you also can't get hana. How do we see that? Which is what we're saying here. It even includes an isser hana, and maybe that's what the pasuk is coming to tell you. That when it comes to a nevela, you can give lager benasina, or to you could sell it. So therefore, again, so maybe this is what it's coming to tell you, that there's an isser hana as well. But maybe taka, if you would have shechted it, you could even, it'd be fine. So Amri Hanimi isser hana mikra moy yachel. The only time maybe you can learn that from lo yachel and isser hana is when you learn out eating and hana. We learn out from Sochi Yisakil that you can't eat it because it's an avela. So therefore, lo yoichas b'sarai is isser hana. Or again, it's come to tell you again that when it comes to shecht it, you can't even eat it then. So who, if it's coming to tell you only an isser hana, so just say don't get benefit. That's besaro lumli. Why does it add its meat? Obviously, it's what we're talking about. That even if you did shechita to it, the meat is still usher. So therefore, that's the answer. Maybe we should say, as we continue to Mem Aleph Amid Beis, maybe we always say this Heicha Debadik Tsor, where you examine the rock, V'shachad bo, and you shecht it with the stone that you're going to stone this animal with. The avdi ke'en skila, so it's ke'il like it's skila. Avol heich the shachti b'sakim, use a knife, lo. So Amri says what? Atu what? Sakin ksiva raisa? The Torah doesn't say you have to use a knife, so we're not going to make a distinction between a knife and a stone. But nan hashaychet b'magel yad b'tzar v'kana shchitasuk sheh. You can even use a reed. You can use a rock, as long as it has the various requirements of agrama and shehiyah and all these other inyanim of hilcha shchita, then it's kosher. So since we went out from le'echos b'sarai kinka hana to bal shor naki lamli, so why would we need bal shor naki? So hanas oidoi, to tell you not only can you not get hana from the basar, but even its hide. The sankadak mean the basar who the asur b'hana. Only the basar you can't get hana from. Maybe you could get hana from its hide. Kamash one bal shor naki. So bal shor naki comes to tell you that you're not allowed to get hana from the hide of a shor niskel. Ulahanach tanoi. According to the other tanoim, that mafkin ulahai bal hashor naki or derash achrina, that they use this to teach us an entirely different drasha. We're going to see later on, which is going to have to do with Dmei Vladis and Chatzi Kaifer. Hanas oyra minalu. How do they know Hanas oyra? So nafkali me'es b'saro. Or now from the S, which is an S is a tafel b'saro. What is secondary to the meat, to the flesh? It's the or, it's the hide, and therefore the S is coming to include that. So ma'ini hu oray the haitana S lo darish. However, not everyone darshans an S, as we find in a famous Gemara. Kedesanya Shimon ha-Masoini. V'yarmul, some say it was actually Nehemiah ha-Masoini. Haya darish kol esen shebatayra. He darshan every single S in the entire Torah. He spent his whole life doing this. Kivan she'egil es Hashem l'kachatira. Once he got to the pasuk that you're supposed to fear Hashem, pirish. He's separated because he says it's impossible. We fear Hashem. There's nothing which is secondary to Hashem. You can't compare anyone to Hashem. So Amul Talmid of Rabbi. Kol esen shedarshan matahelehin. You did spend your whole life work learning an S and learning all these different essen. So what do you do with it? So Amar Lehen, Kashem Shekibalti Schar Dorisha. Just like I got Sachar on learning, Kach Kibalti Schar Prisha. Hashem's going to give me Sachar on separating. With letting go is difficult when you have an escalated commitment. But a Talmud Chacham can do it since he is someone to fear. Which is why this is goof of the pshat, that Rabbi Akiva saw this person and he understood it must be that this person is someone who is a Yoresh Shamayim, and therefore this is someone you have to fear. So only once Rabbi Akiva saw this person, that even though he spent his whole life learning Torah with an S, and then he ended up saying, no, maybe not, maybe not. Once he said that, he said, this is an unbelievable thing. This is Hashem Okechatira. This is someone that you should be afraid of, that you should show awe and trepidation for. Someone who is able to take their entire life work and then say, okay, fine, that's not the emes, it's not the emes. That's Hashem Okechatira, is the Tafel, is the Talmud Chacham. Adkan.